Hi, I'm Jason, and today we are going to be taking these new Rossignol skis. They're actually the model from 2 years ago, and we're going to mount a new pair of Rossignol bindings onto these skis. So that's what they look like, and this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's do this. So the first thing we're going to need to do this install is, of course, the new bindings, which are right here, and the instructions, which are pretty specific that only dealers and certified people should be doing this. I have actually installed, a lot of bindings and made a lot of adjustments over the years. So I've been following the technology. You need your ski boots. You need to set them to the correct type because these bindings can do two different types, and then types of boots. And then you also need to pay attention to the settings for the actual install, and they give you some hints here. So they tell you the depth and the type of drill that you need, so that's important. And these are the Sky 7s, but to reference the setup, I'm actually going to be using my Soul 7s. I actually have 3 sets of Rossignol's. These are a few years old. They're pretty beat up because I've used them a lot, but I have the exact same bindings and the same length skis. So what we're going to do, instead of doing the chart that you normally have to print out and piece together, which I do have for Rossignol to figure out where to put the bindings, I'm actually going to keep this set up because I really like it. So we're going to literally just mark the setup of where these bindings belong on the new pair of skis, so they're the same length. And from there, we're just going to drill the holes, mount them, adjust them, and then wax the skis so I can take them out tomorrow. Now these bindings are dual WTR, so that you can use the walk mode boots or the standard alpine boots, and you need to check your boots and make sure they're the correct type because you do have to set the bindings for either type. And I'll show you right here. You can see it's set right now to alpine. There's a little arrow kind of built into that screw, and you could twist them around for a WTR, and if you do that, it's going to move this little piece of plastic and shift everything so that this buckle slides down for the WTR, and I believe it stays up for the alpine. So that's very important, and they do say check your boots, make sure they're the correct type. I'll check mine right now, and this is what my boots look like. So they're saying I should look for ISO 5355, and there it is right there, 5355. So that is alpine, meaning I'm going to leave them the way they were sent to me, and I am going to use the alpine setting, not the walk mode, because I don't have those on these boots. All right, so I've got my new skis laid out next to the Soul 7s, and to make this easier, I'm going to wrap up these bindings because the stoppers on them, they want to get in the way, and I just want to be able to make a quick measurement, but still it'd be nice if these were not pulling. So let me just set that up. Okay, so technically I only needed to measure one of the skis because what I need is the spacing to the bindings from the center line, and the center line is marked on the skis. It's pretty much always marked on high quality skis. I'm really excited about this though because these ones are the carbon alloy. They're lighter and it's more of an all mountain cut, and so that is the Sky 7, and the Soul 7s are really for powder, and I love these as powder skis, but on days where there isn't much powder and I'm just doing the mountain, it can be a little rough to make nice clean turns and not get a lot of chatter on these. These are much more stiff and they're heavier. So I'm excited to get the Sky 7s mounted, and the first thing I'm going to do is line them up so that they're vertical, just to eyeball it, make sure everything looks like it's the same length, and I'll show you on the camera. So here you can see everything is lined up. These are all even on the end, and on the other end it really doesn't matter that much because they're the same length. But what I want to do is set my bindings the same distance from center on the new skis because I have adjusted these to get them just the way I like them. So now I need to take a measurement from the center line to the very back and the front of the bindings, and I'm going to confirm that they're the same size. If they were not the same size, I'd be measuring from here to where I'm actually buckled in, okay, from the toe and the back. So it is important to get that right. You don't want to mess around with this if you're not sure how it works. And the best way to learn, the way I've learned, is from doing it and from talking to other people who know how to do it and who are trained. So I've got my tape laid out exactly where it needs to be, and I measured from excuse me, the front toe piece, which is the same on both of these, and a lot of times that's how I measure it, but I could have just taken these off and measured the distance to the holes. I don't think it's really necessary, plus it's not as easy to set up the actual holes, and I'll show you why in a second. So let me put this back in here. Once again, because I'm not using WTR, I have this piece up. And my older bindings, these were like the year before these ones, they're the same model, they're the Axis 312C. But there were updates, and this one has the adjustable version, that one does not. I double checked, I just took them apart to check and make sure there was nothing adjustable on them, and there isn't. I pulled all the screws out of this one, and what I'm doing is lining up this to the tape mark. Okay, so it's the exact same. Now that can be a little tricky to do, so I hold my ruler over the top and I line it up with the sides of the tape. And when I get it just right, then I can mark the front or the back. So I'm going to mark right here. That way if I go over that line, I'll see it later. I'm going to do the same thing here on the other boot or the other ski. And it's right there. Now technically, these little lines I made should be the same from the center line. So I always use pieces of tape or I draw lines on things just to make this process easier. So if I want to see the center line and measure it in the center of the ski here, it's easier to do it this way. So I can measure from here to that center line, it's 4.1, and I could do the same thing over here and just make sure both these skis are the same. Now that's really important, because if one of these skis has a binding that's a little forward than the other, then you're going to feel it. So this one comes out to 4.05, that one comes out to 4.1. Okay, so what that tells me is one of them's off, and I'm going to make this one 4.1 so that it's the same. So I'm going to draw a new line. Oops. And it's black on black, so nobody's really going to notice this on my skis. You can also use a scribe if you wanted to put a little scribe mark. So now what I'm doing here is, as I find the center left or right, I can just stay within that line. So if we think of this as vertical and this is horizontal, then I'm looking at the vertical distance. I've got that little mark, which you probably can't even see on the camera, and it's lining up in this little notch. And I just want to make sure they're the same. So now they are. And what I need to do is then find center horizontally and make sure this is square. And I can pretty much eyeball that just because I make things for a living. But you may not want to. If you're not going to eyeball it, then, I mean, there is a little give here. Then you would measure from here to the end on either side. So like I can measure from this edge, and that comes to 0.6, and this one comes to 0.6. So that's another way of doing it. Now right now I actually don't need this piece. So let me get it off. All I need is the base. And the bases are all the same. Both of them are the same. So I'm going to line it up just where I want it. And then when I find the spot that looks center, let's see, right there. I'm going to look at it from a different angle. So I've got this one lined up. Let me just check it one more time. And I put some vertical and horizontal corners in here because it was nice of them to put the design here so that you can do that. Now I'm going to take a center punch. If you don't have one of these, it does make it a lot easier. That's a great way to line up these holes. So I'm going to leave it just like that, press down on it, find the center of each hole. Now I've got a little center punch right into the ski. And when I did that, it moved it. So I'm going to very carefully just realign it. And you could even tape this down if you wanted to, which is not necessary though. Okay, there I've got 2 of my holes marked. Again, I'm making sure that I'm lined up horizontally and vertically. I want them all the same because I want all those holes to fit perfect. And really, this is the most important part, is making sure that you have the holes in the right place and the right depth and the right diameter. Once you have that, the rest is easy. Now, one little tip, you can take a center punch, and if it fits too loosely in here and it moves around, then you can change the diameter of that center punch by putting some tape around it or a tube. But now I have 4 holes here. I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I'm going to find both vertical and horizontal alignment, which is right there. Okay, and now I've got it marked, and once again, center punch. All right, I'm going to do this for all of them. So now, a common question when you're center punching and drilling holes is, what if you center punch and you actually got off a little bit and you notice it later, you're lining things up, and you were, say, just like a 1/16 of an inch off? Should you try to repunch it or re-drill it? Well, I'll tell you this. What you should do is repunch it, and the way you do that is you find the exact center if it's just a little bit off the other hole, the other punch, and then you punch it a little harder or a couple times. You don't want to find out this problem exists after you've drilled the holes, because it's much more difficult to resolve. And if you do find it later, you'll have to fill the hole with epoxy and re-drill the hole. And it is not easy, especially on something like carbon fiber, because it will pull that drill bit. All right, so let me get the rest of these. Four holes. So here are the skis, and these are my center punches. So this is the center line. You can see I've got a nice 4 punches there, but this one was a little off, so I fixed it. These 4 are pretty good. And back here, these are spaced a little further back for the back bindings. And I'm looking to see if anything looks out of the ordinary. This distance from here to the edge, is it too far one way or the other? And I can measure those as well. If it's your first time, I'd recommend measuring them, like get as close as you can, because that will determine parallel. If these 4 were canted this way, that one would be too close to the edge and this would be too far away. You definitely don't want that situation. All right, so now let me get these in view. It tells us that we need to use a 9 and 9.5 millimeter depth, and it says we need a 3.5 millimeter diameter. On here it says 8 millimeters. So what that means is that the screw is going to go 8 millimeters, and you're going to drill 9 to 9.5 millimeters. I'm going to measure and check those screws and make sure, but they have put these dimensions on there based on the strength of the material and the pull-out strength of the actual screws, and these are very specific screws. They're like bone screws that they use in surgery to be able to make sure they're not going to pull out. If they were machine screws, they'd be a little more tight tolerance, but we'll say 4.25, somewhere in there. That is just about right for a 3.5 millimeter drill bit. So I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it should have a lot of pull-out strength. And now we need a 3.5 millimeter drill bit, and there it is. We have a 3.5 millimeter drill bit. I have a lot of drills. I do not, first off, this video, you know, you should never really do this. You should just take it to a professional. I am not giving you advice on how to do it. I'm just showing you how I'm doing it. So don't try this at home. Don't do it yourself. This is not instructional for you to do it. It's to watch me do it. And if I go break something, then that's my problem. But this is not to teach you how to do it, because I'm not a certified technician. And if I were, I probably wouldn't put it on YouTube. But I want to tell you that I've had many skiing accidents and broken lots of skis and bindings over the years. You have to be careful about what you're doing. And if you were to do something that where your life is on the line, then you want to make sure you do it right and don't skimp on using the wrong drill bit. So for something like this, I would not use the wrong size. It's very important. The only way you could really, the only direction you could go in terms of error is to make the drill bit a tiny bit too small. But if you make it too big, then there won't be enough thread strength and the pull-out number would be lower. Another thing, I was reading here and it says they are 8 millimeter depth screws, and they give you plus 0.05, plus or minus 0.05, or no, 0.5 millimeters. Excuse me, that's about 20 thousandths. So they've got some leeway there. There's some tolerance. They also say 4 Newton meters. So when you're tightening them, you don't want to over tighten these because you can pull out the material. And again, that would weaken the entire process and your skis would not be as strong. So now we're going to put this drill bit in. I'm going to mark it exactly at 9 millimeters, and that way we don't go below that. I could put a stop collar on it. I don't think we need it. I've done this many times. I've never really needed one in ski. All right, there we have our holes. We're gonna go put the first set of bindings on this ski and then make sure everything's good. And if it is, we'll drill the other holes, and then we'll be done installing the bindings. After that, we'll have to adjust the settings and make sure they fit the boots right and that they're the right level for me. All right, so we have everything installed. I'm going to grab my boot and just double check it. The brakes on this one are really tight against the ski. So right now I'm going to bend those out a little bit from where they were factory set because I don't want them to slam into the side of the ski all the time. So just pulling them out a little bit, creating a little bend in that metal. And they could be wider, you know. There isn't a lot of clearance right there. So I could take them off. That brake comes off with one screw. I could take it off and put it in the vise and really bend it more. But I think for now it's going to be okay. Alright, it looks good. So there we have our first ski. And everything looks good. I like it. So I'm going to go grab the other ski and drill that. Okay, so there you have it. We have the skis, the bindings are mounted. I just tested them with the boots. Everything turned out very nice. I'm excited to have a new pair of skis in my arsenal. And hi, what are you doing? Thank you for joining me on Let's Do This. Remember, this channel also is Let's Make This. So we're not only doing things like installing bindings, but we're also making things. So we'll also do reviews, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So let me know what you think of this video. Drop a comment and make sure to hit subscribe.